Welcome in to the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe. I'm Ross Geiger, the former NBA video coordinator, and I'm joined alongside Bruce Bernstein, our four-time Emmy Award winner who spent more than 3 decades at ESPN producing NBA shows, SportsCenter, and soaking up knowledge from the best hoop analysts in the business. Also joining us is Michael Worldby Freer, who's a 2-time Emmy Award winner, who's a senior writer at StatFactor, specializing in writing advanced statistical NBA reports for various announcers across the league. This is episode number 177. And while I could easily give this episode to Luka, I'm instead taking the time out to point out that there are 23 players in total that have worn number 77 throughout the history of the NBA.
So, George Mirasan. Give me George Mirasan.
He's definitely one of them. Yes, That is correct. And definitely a much higher number than we all expected, I believe. I mean, I can't name more than maybe 2 or 3 that have worn number 77. So 23 in total, that is a popular number for being so random. But with that said, with the regular season set to begin on October 21st, we continue our 2-a-day shows. They'll be shorter, and we'll release 3 new shows each week leading up to opening night. Each show will feature 1 team from the East and 1 team from the West. Please note, we'll be going alphabetically, so no need to read into any of the orders. So let's keep things rolling with the Chicago Bulls from the East and the Los Angeles Clippers out West. First off, we got the Chicago Bulls. Last year, the Bulls finished 4 games below 500 at 39-43, which was good for the last and final play-in spot in the Eastern Conference. This upcoming season, are we expecting much of the same record-wise from the Bulls, Bruce?
Yes. They've been stuck in a rut for the last 3 years. 39 wins, 40 wins. Their coach is a brand new Hall of Famer, Billy Donovan, so that's nice. And they did finally lock up Josh Giddey last week with a 4-year, $100 million contract after a summer standoff. He was one of those guys along with a couple others that we've spoken about. They have pretty solid guys in the backcourt. Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, Kevin Huerter, Trey Jones. But they really need guys like, Jalen Smith, Modest Buzelis, Patrick Williams, and rookie Noah Esenge to step up if they expect to finish higher than last year's number 10 spot in the East.
Will be.
Well, I'll say this. I've been critical of them in the past because of how Bruce mentioned. There's no direction. They had a bunch of veterans, and they were 39-40 wins. But now they've gotten rid of some of these veterans. Zach LaVine is no longer there. DeMar DeRozan is no longer there. They, for whatever reason, Nikola Vucevic is still there. We don't know exactly why, but he'll be gone after this season because his deal is up. And then you start to look at him, and you start saying, okay, there might be a plan here to get to work with the youth, to work with the young guys, because Josh Giddey, as Bruce mentioned, just re-signed a 4-year deal. He's obviously young. Kobe White is turning into a really solid player. You got Buzelis there, who is really an up-and-coming player, and they just drafted Esengwe, who seems like he's going to be, a rotation player, if nothing else. So you can see them actually start to work towards developing a young team after years of wondering what is their plan. So they probably will end up in the same spot. I'll tell you this, though. I've done this before on our show. I've given Billy Donovan and the Bulls a lot of credit last season. They completely changed their offensive style. They went from 27th or 28th in pace up to 2nd. They were the most improved team in terms of player movement and ball movement. Took a lot more threes. Their 3-point rating was among the best. So they really tried to do something to change their style. Didn't work, obviously, in the wins department. But you can see the development there. And, the problem they're going to have, as far as I can see, is depth. Yeah. Because when you get by those young guys, coming off the bench, their highest salary reserves are Zach Collins, Patrick Williams, and Kevin Huerter, excuse me, each making $18 million a year. And so, you can't you can't win with that. Those are your highest priced reserves there.
No, and I mean, let's call it what it is, though. Those high priced reserves are also making at least $18 million a year. Huerter makes just under 18. Collins is at 18, and Patrick Williams is at 18. So those are some high-priced reserves, and kind of want to focus on Patrick Williams because, boy, that contract in itself will be really I have a hard time finding optimism for this team when they're signing deals to Patrick Williams or trading for Isaac Okoro, who's pretty much, exact replica of Patrick Williams. But I think the Giddey deal to try to get on the positive side, glass half full here. Giddey signing that deal here before training camp begins brings clarity to this team entering the season. Obviously, he's going to be a leader moving forward and a floor general for this group. Buzelis, as you brought up, he is a guy that can definitely, hopefully, have a strong sophomore season. He's going to have ample opportunity to show the improvements that he's hopefully made over the course of the summer. And then outside of that, I mean, hopefully you get some solid contributions from Kobe White. I mean, this could be a year that Kobe White possibly makes the All-Star team. I mean, it's going to be his offense to run, and he's a guy that scored the ball quite well last year for Chicago. So keep an eye on him being a scorer to the point to where we're considering him as an all-star.
To your point, Russ, next season he's a free agent, so they're going to have a decision to make on him. So, yeah, you can expect the guy in his contract year to have a solid season.
Yep. Great point there. So keep an eye out on Kobe White to have a big year. And I think first and foremost, Bruce, you brought it up, just Josh Giddey, getting that clarity out of the way, signing him to the deal. It's not an awkward situation going on like Kuminga and Golden State. It's all over and done with. You hope for the best for Billy Donovan as he starts training camp with his group.
A couple of things that the Bulls really need to work on. They were 28th in the NBA in forced turnovers, near the bottom, and they were near the top of the league in rebounds, but near the bottom in opponents' rebounds. So they were a minus rebounding team, even though they grabbed a bunch of them. They allowed way too many offensive rebounds by the other team, 24th in the league, 6 from the bottom. And, the Bulls haven't had a 50-win season since fill in the blank was their coach, World B.
Oh, Tom Thibodeau.
Attaboy. So, it seems like the Jordan years are even more than 30 years behind us, the way this team has sort of floundered. But, there's hope. We'll see. But they definitely have some things that need major improvement.
Yeah, definitely a wait-and-see approach in the Windy City. Now, next up, we've got the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, last season, the Clippers went 50-32, which was good for a top 5 record out west. And speaking of that 50-32 record, Bruce, they also added a lot of big names within that age group this summer, didn't they?
They're the oldest team in NBA history. The average age on their roster is 33.2 years old. Chris Paul is 40. Brook Lopez, 37. James Harden and Nick Batum, both are 36. Kawhi Leonard, who we'll have a little more about in a moment, 34. Bogey Bogdanovic, 33. Bradley Beal, 32. The kid, Chris Dunn, is 31. Newly acquired John Collins and Ivica Zubac are their youngest key guys, and they're both 28. So they do have a pretty deep roster, but boy, oh boy, injuries have got to be a huge concern for Ty Lue, even though they have a lot of bodies out there. And that Lue is a premier coach, and as a former player, I have a feeling he's going to have a good sense of when to rest guys to try and keep them fresh, because they are a playoff team, no question.
Oh, totally. Yeah, not a question at all. World B, what's your thoughts on the Clippers moving forward?
Well, as Bruce mentioned, there is no team in the NBA that is more win now than the Los Angeles Clippers when you look at who they brought in. They are not a team that is looking to develop anybody. They're looking to get as much mileage out of these tires as they possibly can, as these retreads, if you will. I know they're hopeful. They're hopeful that a guy like Chris Paul can take some of the heat off of James Harden. They're hopeful that Brook Lopez can take some of the heat off Zubac there, and it all makes sense. But you get one person going down. And now suddenly, Brook Lopez at his age is going to play, 35 minutes or whatever a night. And, you're asking for trouble over the long haul. So they're taking a big chance, not to mention the guy we're going to talk about here in a minute, Kawhi Leonard, who, until last season was anti-back-to-back guy. And he only played in a handful of games last season. Didn't show up until later in the season. He did start playing back-to-back, so I'll give him credit for that. But let's see him do it over a whole year. Their defense, outstanding last season. We thought at the beginning of this time last year, we thought they were going to be the joke of the league. And we all left the egg in our face because they not only did the opposite, they won 50 games. Still couldn't get out of the first round, though. And I honestly don't know if all these old guys coming in are going to make them any closer to a championship, maybe, or even 50 wins in a really tough conference.
Yeah. Well, last show I mentioned that the Houston Rockets were the deepest team in the NBA heading into next season. But I'd say the Clippers aren't too far behind them as the second deepest team in the league. The only difference and big difference between the two teams is the Clippers' success might require that much depth considering the injury histories and age of most of their core players, as Bruce pointed out. Now, overall, I think this team, once again, finishes with a top 5 record out west. And as you said, World B, I think they are a contender in the Western Conference, a team that's definitely going to be taken seriously come playoff time, given the resumes of these guys and the experience they have in big-time games. Now, how healthy this group is heading into those playoff games, again, remains in question and is a toss-up. And we'll definitely have to see kind of how the season starts with this group, because I feel like we're really going to the first 20 games for the Los Angeles Clippers should give us a good taste of what to expect moving forward, rotation-wise, responsibility-wise, and minutes-wise for this group.
I know we're going to get to Kawhi Leonard in a moment, but I want to take a moment here to talk a little bit about Zubac. He's been around forever at center. But as we said, he's just 28 years old as the season begins. He's a double-double machine. He's durable. He was second team all defense last season and was also second in voting for most improved player behind Dyson Daniels. He's one of the most underappreciated centers in the entire NBA. And here's an interesting stat. He actually had more win shares than the other 9 players who made all defensive first and second teams. So that's one of those things that, normal fan isn't really going to pay a lot of attention to it. But people who really look at the game closely, like my friends here on the screen, we know how valuable that guy is.
Totally. Yep. And,
hey, by the way, you want to talk about, we talk about defense, we talk about all the potential with this older group. If they can shoot the ball from the perimeter with real success, they are going to be a tough team to beat. Last season, when they shot the league average or better in a game, which was 36% from 3-point range in a game, they were 39-6. And then when they didn't, they were 11-26. Now, the problem is they didn't shoot the three that often. They were only 25th in 3-point field goal rate. Like what percentage of his shots were threes. So if they can they obviously have good shooters. If they can change and get into the top 20 or shoot a little bit more, which you kind of figure it's hard to believe when you have James Harden on your team, but it is true. They did not shoot the ball that often from 3-point range. With their ability to shoot, now Norman Powell's gone. He was a big part of that, so they'll have to make up for that. But they have a good potential to really be a solid shooting team, make that be a real weapon if they just do it a little more frequently.
Yeah, good point there, Will be. Now, Bruce, obviously we talked about a pre-show. You can't talk about the Clippers here at this current time without bringing up the Kawhi Leonard situation that's currently going on. Of course, just a brief summary here. Pablo Torre, who has his own podcast, Pablo Finds Out, did some digging, looked into some of the under the table potential salary going on with Kawhi Leonard making the decision to leave the Toronto Raptors after just winning the championship to join the Los Angeles Clippers. I mean, where are we at with this? I mean, there's been a lot of back and forth with Mark Cuban. The league seems to be investigating it. What's your thoughts into all this?
Well, Cuban has defended Ballmer, saying he's too smart to get caught. But Ballmer also told ESPN's Ramona Shelburne that he was conned by the people at Aspiration, so he wasn't too smart to get conned, all right? To Ballmer's credit, he claims to welcome the investigation. But there's something about this that isn't passing my smell test, and here's what I mean. Adam Silver came out a couple of days ago and said that the onus is on the NBA to prove wrongdoing from Ballmer. Basically, he's kind of saying, it almost looks like he's putting his thumb on the scale a little bit there, And again, Adam is a man of great integrity, someone I highly respect, somebody I actually know and worked with for years on the draft very closely. So I'm a big fan of Adam. But I think Steve Ballmer is probably maybe the NBA's favorite owner. Are you really going to, discipline this guy hard when he owns a team in the second market? He just built the best arena in the NBA. So if they really discipline this guy hard or kick him out of the league, are the Clippers going to go play at the Fabulous Forum again? He owns that too, Ballmer. So, I really feel like, Ballmer, they're setting up, even though they hired the law firm that investigated Donald Sterling and former Suns owner Robert Sarver over their scandals, you have to believe if they find that he's clean, he's clean. But I just wish Adam had come out and said it's on the own. I mean, it was probably not a terrible thing to say, but to me, it just seemed like you don't need to say that.
Yeah. Well, B, what's your take on all this?
Well, I think this investigation, while it's looking into the Clippers and what's going on there, I think they're obviously going to make sure this isn't a league-wide. If they don't know about it already, that it isn't something that occurs throughout the league. There's a lot of people saying that the Clippers aren't the originators; they're just the latest, and maybe that's true. I have absolutely no idea. But I think the NBA is really, their investigation is really to make sure this isn't a league-wide issue. If it is, they got to do something, whether it's to Ballmer or whatever, in terms of draft, in terms of some sort of punishment to make sure these other teams. And then you have to go out after other teams. But I think their biggest concern right now is the rest of the league as a whole. Make sure this isn't something where there's 5, 6, 7, 10 teams that are doing this to try and circumvent the salary cap in some way, because then you have a really serious problem.
Yeah, I think the investigation, I'm right there with you, World B. I think the investigation right now is focused on 29 other teams more so than it is this aspiration Kawhi Leonard business, because you can't punish the Clippers and then have all this other stuff come out. So great point by both of you. And Bruce, I agree. Like, what are the Clippers going to do? Try to stroll right back into the Staples Center and we need somewhere to play without Steve Ballmer. So
make sure they didn't change the lock there.
Yeah, exactly. So should be interesting to see what comes of this, and I would assume we'll have some type of update here from the NBA League office prior to the start of training camp. Now, on our next 48 minutes to a day, we'll examine the Cleveland Cavaliers and the always interesting, I should say, Los Angeles Lakers. We'll hope you'll join us, and we'll still keep you up to date in 48, but go much shorter than 48 actual minutes. Take care, everyone.